Welcome to my Commodore 64 Games memories. This is where I look at old games and some of the technical details behind them. Let's get into it. Today we have Harrier Attack by Durrell Software, written by John Parkinson. This game was probably almost certainly inspired by the 1982 Falklands War. I remember the Falklands War actually because I was about 9 years old at the time, and the news was filled with the war progress. I think it was published on the Commodore 64 in 1984, so I was a little bit older when I was playing this game. I actually had the original of this. I remember the cassette cover that came with this game. When the game first loaded for me, it came up with this choose skill level 1 to 5 prompt. There wasn't really a title screen or anything else like that. It just came up with this. So you choose a skill level. I've chosen skill level 1, I think. Now, an interesting thing to note with this is that when I first started playing this, it was around the time when I had just about started experimenting with machine code and using machine code to change the screen and border colors very rapidly and trying to time that with a raster position. So I immediately noticed that when the game started running, that the top part of the screen was using a different screen mode compared to the bottom part of the screen. Well, the colors were different. I immediately noticed the little flickering raster timing artifact here because the timing wasn't precisely timed, and so you can see the change between the sky color and the background black color. Now, I'm not very good at this game. I wasn't very good back then, I don't think, but I'm even worse at it now because it is just far too fast for me. And to be honest, it seems to be rather unfair, especially with the way that you can get shot without much warning at all. So here I am zooming over the landscape, and this scrolling landscape was really very interesting to me because it updates rather quickly, but also it can update rather smoothly. The movement of the Harrier jump jet is also great. There are quite a few sprite animation frames in memory, and we can have a look at those later on. But basically you're meant to take off, fly to the right while avoiding missiles, while avoiding enemy aircraft, and also avoiding the anti-aircraft fire. You're meant to be able to drop bombs and also shoot missiles to destroy these ground targets. And then once you get so far to the right, you eventually get to where the enemy base is. You're meant to destroy the enemy base by bombing it or missiling it. Here we are, here's the enemy base. And then, once you've destroyed everything, you're meant to fly back and then land before your fuel runs out. If your fuel runs out, then you eject, and then you get captured or something. Anyway, the game ends. When you land, the game also ends. Landing was also rather tricky, if I remember correctly. You had to be almost pixel precise, or pixel accurate, to be able to land correctly on the ship. And it took me a while to realize that actually there were keys or controls to slow down the aircraft, as opposed to just speeding it up and zooming across. So here I am, I've slowed down and I'm bombing the enemy base. And then a missile gets me. Like, just shoots out of the radar tower and goes boom. Like, typical, really. So, that is a very quick overview of Harrier Attack. I think I might just play it one more time. See if I can land, perhaps. I don't think I will be able to. Oh no, there's me trying to land, and then I just pressed the eject button by mistake. Oops. So depending on the skill level, if you choose the higher skill levels, then the enemy aircraft appear a lot more frequently. There we go, there's one. And then they shoot missiles at you. On the lower skill levels, they don't tend to appear that often. And, of course, I was trying to shoot the aircraft. And I just collided with it instead. This is how most games, for me, in Harrier Attack, seem to go. So now let's have a look at the technical details behind this game. So here we are again, using the C64 debugging tool. Up in the top right hand corner we can see the graphics map for the sprites display, and we can see all of the lovely frames of animation for the main plane, airplane that you control. You can see how it kind of like swivels around horizontally when it's going slowly, and then when it's faster it kind of like tips its wings and looks like it's banking, which is very cool. We can look through the memory at the graphics map, and we can see that actually quite a large amount of the memory is empty. We can see that a large amount of the memory hasn't really been updated from the default Commodore 64 state. We can see here actually that at screen in bank 4000, which is the kind of like the second bank, we can see that we've got a character set at 4800 and we've got a screen at 4400, which is actually the level screen. Now, when you're choosing the skill level screen is in a different bank and a different place in memory. But the way that the color memory scrolls from right to left, you can see that actually the game level is scrolling in behind as it is still showing the score and the choose skill level. It's just that the color memory is updating, which gives it that kind of like effect where the colors come from right to left. Now, I was always interested about why this was happening when I was trying to find out how this game was working. When I was young, I was probably 12 or 13 at the time, because I was trying to figure out raster interrupts and split screen scrolling, and also trying to figure out how to scroll stuff nice and quickly, because I wanted to do similar kinds of games, because I was always interested in writing these kinds of games. So we can see as we move around that actually it's only really using, I think, one screen bank. The score panel is actually part of the same screen bank. There is just a raster split here for the screen colors. But yeah, generally speaking, the scrolling is nice and smooth. For how early this game was, I think it was relatively early. Actually, it plays really quite well, although, as I said, I think I find it far too quick and a little bit unfair, to be honest. Games were a lot harder back then, but I think just my reactions have slowed down since. Here, anyway, here's the screen for the highest scores on choose skill level. You can see that it is in the default bank, the first bank. And the screen for that is at 0400 in hex, of course. We can see that it has. We can see where the character set is. We can see how practically, the character set is relatively simple, to be honest. Now here we can see the code for actually how the screen is scrolling. We can see that actually it's a semi unrolled loop, kind of. I mean, it's doing a lot of indexed loads and stores, so it's not completely unrolled like it was, I think, in Dancing Monster, where the screen update was a completely unrolled loop. But to be honest, this way of using indexed absolute addresses is a good cost-benefit trade-off between speed of execution and also how much memory you have left. But to be honest, this game has so much memory left, it could have used an unrolled loop for everything it could have either stored all of that unrolled loop and then loaded it in, or it could have calculated that unrolled loop and then stored it in memory way up high. But anyway, that's pretty much all of the technical details for this game. If you like this kind of game retrospective memory type thing, then please do consider liking and subscribing to this channel. And I hope to see you around next time. Take care, have a great day, wherever you are.